my goodness, book fans, it's almost April. How is it almost April? Like we're a quarter of the way through the year, and I haven't shared with you my 25 in 25 yet. Let's get into it. So, since we're practically in a new month, I've been thinking about maybe making an April TBR or something, but I probably want to include some of my 25 and for 25 in that. So, if I'm going to include them, I probably should share them with you guys. So, how about we just talk about the 25 things that I want to read in 2025? And let me just preface this with I do not think that I'm going to finish this year. A lot of the things on this list are series, and if I were to read the full series and all these things this year, it would encompass pretty much everything I read for the year, I would say, because some of these are long series, but we love making reading lists and not completing them. I mean, who doesn't love making a list and then just ignoring it, right? However, even though I hadn't shared this list with anyone, I did make this list at the end of December, and I have read a couple of things off of it. Not enough to say that I'm like on track, definitely not, but I have read a couple. So when we get to those, I'll let you know which ones I've read. All right. Now, this is not in any kind of priority order. When I originally made the list, it wasn't in a priority order, but since then it's also been randomized, so it's totally not in any kind of order at all. So let's get into it. Starting off with something that I fully intended to read in 2024 and just didn't get around to it, and that's the Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee. This is a urban fantasy that's often compared to The Godfather. I really don't know a lot about it, which is going to be a common trend with this list because hey, I haven't read them yet. But it's an urban fantasy and they trade in jade, which I'm pretty sure gives people more power or magic or something. When I first heard about it, I kind of thought jade might have been like drugs or something, but apparently it's magical powers. I don't know. I'm super interested in it. I've heard it's really good. I've also heard that the later books are a little bit better than the first one, so if you read the first one and think it's kind of mid, it's worth continuing. But I mean, I won't know until I get around to it. So, Jade City is first on the list. Next on the list, we have a book that was getting so much hype last year when it first came out, but I ordered a super pretty Fairy Loot edition. So when it was being crazily hyped, I was just waiting for my copy to come. And by the time I got my copy, it was just kind of back burner. But some people are getting kind of excited because the second book is coming out this year, so I really think that I should read it and get caught up and be excited for the next one. And that's When the Moon Hatched by, I believe it's Sarah A. Parker. This book is a chonker, let me tell you. She is thick, but it's gorgeous and it's about dragons. And some people said it was a little bit confusing, but there's a glossary at the back, and they didn't realize that was there when they read it and they saw it afterwards. And if they had been able to access that when they were reading it, maybe it wouldn't have been so much of a tough time. I don't know. We'll see what I think of it when I get to it because I do love me a story about dragons. I mean, come on, who doesn't like a story about dragons, right? Next on the list, we have a TBR veteran. We have The Night Circus by Aaron Morgenstern. This is kind of I feel like it might have a bit of a gothic vibe to it. I'm not sure, but I love anything with a circus or carnival kind of setting, that kind of vibe. And I've had this on my shelf for a couple of years and I feel like I'm gonna love it. And it's one of those rainy day books that you keep putting it off even though you know you're going to enjoy it. And I want to get to it. I want to just stop waiting to enjoy things and just enjoy them. So I'm really looking forward to actually finally reading The Night Circus. All right, next on the list, we've got a 2025 release that's actually not out yet, but it comes out kind of soon. I thought it came out in the summer, but I'm pretty sure it actually comes out in May, which is really not that long at all. That's Rewind It Back by Liz Tomforty. This is the fifth and I think final book in the Windy City series. This is a like contemporary sports romance series, and honestly, contemporary romance are kind of like usually just mid for me. I'm more of a fantasy, romantasy, sci-fi kind of girly with just like contemporary romance here and there, just kind of like palette cleanse, you know what I mean? But the Windy City series just hits. It just hits, man. They're so good. You have like hockey, basketball, baseball, and I'm pretty sure this last one we go back to hockey because I'm pretty sure we're finally getting a character that we've seen since book one get his romance. And I'm so excited. I am not even joking. Like, when this book comes out, it's going on my Kindle and it's being read like pretty much immediately. I mean, I can't see this book being out long before it's in my brain. All right, like this is brain candy, sports romance, and I'm here for it. All right, next on the list we have a series that I'm hoping to finish up this year. I was reading it last year and I read the first like five books, and I'm pretty sure there's only like two left, and they're not even that long. So I think this is very achievable and doable goal, and that's the Murderbot Diaries. All right, I'm pretty sure I've just got two more to go. The Murderbot Diaries is so fun. Most of the books are pretty short. Like a lot of them are like 150, 160 kind of pages. You know, we're talking like a little bit of a novella kind of moment. And then there are a couple that are more like novel length, but they're not like long, big, thickum novels. You know what I mean? They're just these like fun little sci-fi moments with our murderbot who has hijacked their own brain, and all Murderbot wants to do is like binge watch TV. And like, I mean, same. You know, it's just the most relatable non-human character you could imagine, and I love it. So I'm pretty sure I just have like the last two books to go, and I think that's very doable. All right, next on the list we have another sci-fi, but this one kind of leans a little bit sci-fantasy, is my understanding, and that's the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio. So we start off with Empire of Silence, and I really don't know much about this series, but we follow Hadrian Marlowe, and like some people think he's a killer, and other people think he's a hero, and it's like a space opera with fantasy elements. I really don't know much about it, and I kind of want to go into it kind of blind. I have the beautiful broken binding editions of the first three books, but there are like six books out, and I'm pretty sure the seventh book comes out this year, and I think it might be the last book, but don't quote me on it because I don't actually know. But honestly, like, I'm kind of torn. I kind of want to get into it really soon because I'm having a bit of FOMO. People are absolutely loving the series, like, loving it. But I also kind of want to wait until I have more of the books because I only have the first three. So, we'll see. I'm pretty sure that there's a book club that's reading the first book in April, so I might just hop on that and I just want to know, all right? I want to know about Hadrian Marlowe. Wow, and even after having been randomized, so we've got a little bit of a genre clump up here because next on the list is another sci-fi series, and that's The Expanse. I got the entire series for Christmas in paperback. It was like the main thing that I wanted for Christmas. It was like the big thing that I asked for. This series has gotten an adaptation that was well received, and I haven't watched it. I haven't seen the adaptation. I haven't read any of the books. I really don't know much about it, except obviously it's a sci-fi space kind of adventure. It's like humans have colonized our solar system, but not out into deeper space. And I'm pretty sure there's also like a mystery story. Like, I think there's a detective and searching for a little girl or something. I don't know, but I've heard it's good and I want to read it. So, The Expanse is on the list. All right, this next one is kind of like I want to read the series that is a bit of a TBR veteran, but I mostly want to read it because it leads up to another series. But they're all clumped up into this one thing. So what I'm saying that I want to read on the 25 and 25 is Caraval by Stephanie Gerber. Realistically, I want to read Once Upon a Broken Heart. I got the gorgeous Fairy Loot, pretty editions, and I want to read them, but I need to read Caraval first. And it's not like I don't think I'm gonna love Caraval. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna really enjoy that series as well, because like I said when we were talking about the Night Circus, give me a carnival circusy kind of vibe setting and like I'm here for it. And people love the series. I want to fall in love with Jax too, all right? I want to know what's up with this carnival that comes to town. So, this is the year, all right? I've been putting it off for too long. The Caraval box set's been sitting there on my shelf for at least 2 years, possibly even longer, and it's been too long. So, we're just gonna do it. We're gonna read it this year. It's going to happen. Okay, next on the list, we finally have one that I can check off and say that I've read it. Not the whole series, but the first book, which is what we need to do to say that, like, we started it. And I can tell you, I will be continuing the series because the first book was amazing. Amazing. It was so good. And that's The Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. So obviously we're starting with the Farseer Trilogy, and I read Assassin's Apprentice, so I've started to learn about Fitz's story. And this book was so good. People talk about how Robin Hobb's writing is like character driven but a little bit slow, and like I could see that, but it was also like the first book, so you kind of expect there to be a lot of like setup and stuff like that anyways. But I really enjoyed it. You follow young Fitz, and Fitz is the bastard son of Prince Chivalry, and you get his story and how he is growing up and how he's chosen to secretly apprentice under, the king's assassin. And honestly, the story was so good. I am so excited to continue with the series. And I'm especially excited for the second trilogy because it seems to be very ship based, and I love swashbuckling seafaring adventures and pirates. So, yeah, The Realm of the Elderlings, we can check this off, but we are definitely continuing. All right, next up we have another one that I can actually check off, and this one I can fully check off because I not only started the series in January, but I've read them all. I'm totally caught up. I was completely obsessed. And this is Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinneman. I listened to the audiobooks. Listen, okay, listen. Hear me out. Hear me out. Okay, I was skeptical at first too. Like, I don't read lit RPG, I don't play RPGs. This is not like the normal, regular kind of book that I read. But I kept hearing people talking about how amazing and funny and awesome it was. And I was curious, okay? I wanted to know. And I saw them on sale in, like, I don't know, Prime Day sales or something in like October. It was like the first two books on audio, and people particularly said the audiobooks were good. So I grabbed them. And then in January, I listened to the first one, and then the second one, and the third one, and the fourth one, and so on. And I was totally caught up and eagerly awaiting the release of the audiobook for book seven in February when it came out. I couldn't stop. It's so funny. And I'm sure just reading it would also be a good experience, but honestly, the audiobook, like, seriously, the audiobook. Oh my god. The audiobook was awesome. The narration is hysterical. I love the AI. Like, the AI who is like obsessed with Carl's feet. Listen, the series is unhinged. Princess Donut, the cat, best character. Best character. She's always chasing clout and fame. Like, it's so good. It's so funny. Do not be put off by the fact that it's lit RPG, all right? Like, just don't let that discourage you. Go in with an open mind, and as long as you like humor, there's something in it for you to enjoy. Okay, remember at the beginning when I said that this wasn't in any particular order? Well, if there was one that was the top priority, it would be this next one. And it's also one that I'm a little bit kind of putting off. It's not that I'm intimidated, I know that I'm going to love it. I just made a mistake when I read the first book. All right, like just hear me out, okay? So, we're talking about Red Rising, okay? And I read the first book like a year and a half ago and I loved it. It was so good. Oh my god, it was so good. It was so sad, but it was so good. And I haven't read the second book or any of the rest of the series. Here's why. I annotated the first book, and I'm not very often in the mood to annotate books. And by not often in the mood, it turns out that means practically never. I finished reading it in like mid to late September, and where we were going into spooky season, I wanted to do like some vampire reading, so I didn't just go into the next book, and I just haven't picked up the rest of the series. So, we need to fix that because I know I'm gonna love it. And the seventh book is, I'm pretty sure, coming out this year, and I think that's the last book in the series. So, like, I just need to do this. I know I'm gonna love it. I'll probably reread the first book because it has been like a year and a half, but maybe I'll get the audiobook and listen to it and just like get back into the world with Darrow and his experiences, like moving up through the color cast. Series is so good. And then, like, maybe I don't have to actually annotate the next book. Maybe I can just tab it and be all right with it. Because honestly, it's the annotating that's been like making me put it off. That's really and truly what it is, you know? So, yeah, but we need to get back into this world because honestly, it's so good. People always say that it's like Hunger Games in space, and I would say for the second half of the book, yeah, that's pretty accurate. But there's so much to it. Like, you're in this color cast system where the Reds are basically like slaves, and Darrow is like rising up, and he's gonna like pose as a gold. And oh man, I really gotta get back into this series. Okay, so next on the list is another TBR veteran, and that's Vicious by V.E. Schwab. Honestly, this has been on my shelf for a couple years, and I really want to read it, and I really think I'm gonna love it, but it's been on the shelf so long that I barely remember what it's about. Like, I know I've read the description of the book, but who is she? I don't know. If I remember correctly, it's like friends turned rivals turned enemies, or is it like rivals turned friends turned enemies? I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that there's superpowers. So, you know, that's kind of enough, right? I'm pretty sure it's a duology. Like, I know there's at least one more book, but I think it's just one, so that's not that bad. I only own the first one, but if I like it, which I expect I will, I'll probably just pick up the second one. And yeah. All right, next on the list, we have the opposite of a TBR veteran. We have a book that's not even actually on my shelves. I've almost bought it a bunch of times and told myself not to because it's still available on Kindle Unlimited. So why not just read it on my Kindle, and find out if I love it enough to want to own a copy. This is a book that was getting like so much hype in the fall, like late portion of 2024, and that's Quicksilver by, I believe it's Callie Hart. This book is, I'm pretty sure, another like say romantasy, so I'm a little bit hesitant on the fact that it's Fae, and it's not that I don't like Fae stories because I do. They're just getting a little bit, I don't want to say they're played out or overdone because that's not true and it's not fair. But, sometimes you gotta call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it just is what it is. and I've heard so much hype about it and I really really want to read it, but I'm not convinced that I'm going to love it as much as other people do, but I am very curious. I really don't know anything about it except the main guy's name is Kingfisher, which some people seem to have a complaint about, but honestly, like, in terms of fantasy names, at least I can pronounce it, you know what I mean? I'm really not that concerned, but I'm relatively certain that it's like a favorite to see. I don't know. I'll read it on my Kindle, but I am very excited to read it, and I want to read it like while the hype is still going. Like, I don't want to leave it too long. And like I said with When the Moon Hatched, I'm pretty sure the second book is due to come out later this year. So it would be nice to actually read it before the second book comes out and like get caught up. Next up, we have another book that I don't actually own, but I've been waiting for the paperback forever, or at least it feels like forever. And that's Empire of the Damned by Jay Kristoff. I read Empire of the Vampire last year and I absolutely loved it. Like, I loved it. And I don't know why it's taking so long for the paperback to come out in Canada, but it's finally available for pre order. I will have my copy in the summer. I'll probably be reading this in like spooky season because I love books about vampires in the fall. Like, October reading vampire books is basically my favorite. So, yeah, that works. And I mean, the third book comes out, I'm pretty sure, early November. I'll probably have to wait 100 years for that paperback, but maybe I'll get the third book on audio or something because I don't think I'm gonna want to wait to experience the story. But yeah, Empire of the Vampire was like dark and gritty, and like, even though it was a story of like, well, Gabriel was like captured straight from the start of the story, and he's telling the story of what happened. And I don't usually love stories that are told that way, like through someone telling you the story, or like letters or correspondence or interviews. I don't normally love it, but man, it just worked for this one. It worked for me. It was so good. And I'm so looking forward to getting into the next book in the series. So, yeah, Empire of the Damned, I'm so pumped. Okay, so next on the list, we have a book that's a little bit out of my comfort zone, just in terms of like genre, and that's Beartown by Frederick Bachman. This is more of a like general fiction, I'm pretty sure, which I don't really read a lot of, because your girl likes to escape reality into books of fantastical worlds and ridiculous romances that would never possibly make any sense because the scenarios are just absolutely ludicrous. Anyways, this is Beartown. This is about like a small town in trouble, and they hinge all their hopes for the future on their hockey team. That's literally all I know about it, except that it's supposed to be very emotional. And anytime I see people like posting reels or talking about this book, they're like sobbing, like absolutely sobbing their eyes out. So I don't really know if I'm emotionally ready to deal with that, but I do want to read it. However, I don't know if I'm going to want to read it in the summer. So I might want to try and get it read like sooner rather than later before the actual summer comes, because like a small town, a hockey team, I don't know, it's giving winter. So either I read it very very soon or we save it for like maybe November or December or something. I don't know. And speaking of saving things for particular seasons, this next one I will be reading in fall. Like, I might start it in September so that it bleeds into October, or it might be an October read purely. But we are going to read The Vampire Academy in 2025. It is happening. I wanted to read it last fall, but I only had the first three at that point because I have the Fairy Loot editions, and I wasn't sure when I would get the rest of them. Anyways, I have them all now and I'm saving them for the fall. I'm going to read Vampire Academy. I love vampires and all their associated bullshit. It's like my favorite subgenre. And honestly, what is Vampire Academy about? Couldn't tell you. Could not tell you, not the slightest thing, but in my mind, it's gonna be like, any of that kind of teenage vampires, maybe werewolves, magical power, just all that vampires and bullshit and nonsense that I absolutely love. I eat it up every time. Except Twilight. Man, I did not love Twilight. But all the rest of it, like True Blood. Oh my god, I love True Blood, Vampire Diaries, all of that. All so Vampire Academy will be happening in the fall. Okay, next on the list we have another bit of a TBR vet. I want to read Six of Crows. I want to read Six of Crows so bad, and I've had it for oh God, definitely over a year at this point, but I have been advised to read Shadow and Bone first. Again, it's had a successful adaptation. I remember people were very upset when it got canceled, and I haven't watched the show. I haven't read Shadow and Bone, and I know a lot of other people say that you can read Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom and not read Shadow and Bone, but like I bought them. Like, let's be real. I bought them, okay? I bought them. What do you want me to say? I bought them. So I'm gonna read them. And I'm not mad about it. But what is the Grishaverse about? What happens in Shadow and Bone? No idea. Absolutely no clue. I know that Six of Crows has a heist, and I love stories about heists, and I'm really looking forward to it. To get to Six of Crows, I have to first read Shadow and Bone. So it's on the list. Okay, so next on the list we have the Souls Trilogy by Harley LaRue, starting with Her Soul to Take. This is a like dark romance, paranormal kind of situation, but it's a demon romance, and I'm relatively certain that our girly might be a witch, but maybe that's not the first book. Maybe that's like one of the later books. So it's like Her Soul to Take, Her Soul to Keep, and Soul of a Witch, if I remember correctly. So, I remember this book, or well, this series was getting a lot of hype like maybe a couple years ago, and I have FOMO about it. And then I ordered these gorgeous editions from Fabled that took 100 years to come, and I have them, and I haven't read them yet. And I want to love this series like everybody else does. Or at least I want to know what happens and find out if I love it like everybody else does. You know what I mean? I'm a little bit hit or miss on dark romances, but I tend to like them a bit more if they're speculative in some way. So paranormal or fantasy or something like that, those kind of elements. I like that more so than when it's like contemporary dark romance because I don't know. Sometimes it can give a bit of ick, you know? But not always. And honestly, I haven't read that much dark romance, so I'm not super well versed. And I need to read more to find out where my tastes really lie, you know? You don't know until you experience it. All right, next on the list, we have another one that had a successful adaptation that I haven't watched, and that's The Three Body Problem. So, this one we're talking sci fi, but it's got like Chinese cultural influences or maybe mythology. I'm not sure. I got this series in the Broken Binding sci-fi subscription and the editions are absolutely gorgeous. And I remember when the show was airing, the book started getting a lot more hype and it got my attention and my interest and I want to read the beautiful books that I own, so I put it on the list. All right, next on the list, we have another one that I can check off as read, and that's Onyx Storm. So, third in the Empyrean series by Miss Rebecca Yarros. And of course, I read it like as soon as it came out. I love the Empyrean series. Are they brilliantly written? Is this some like life changing masterpiece? No. No, honey, no, not at all. But is it a fun time? Yes, absolutely. I love the dragons like Grumpy Terran and like adolescent snarky Andarna. And of course I love Zayden. I mean, come on. I'm just a girl. Of course I love Zayden, you know? And I just love all the nonsense that goes on in that series. And Honestly, yeah, I read it and I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people really didn't like the third book, and everybody's like having all the insane speculations about the ending, but like, I'm just here for it. I'm along for the ride, and I just want to see how things turn out in this crazy dragon war, you know? So, yeah, read it, loved it, waiting for the next one. Oh, wow, next on the list, we've got another one that I've read. I actually read a little bit more than I thought I had. This is great. Still, definitely not on track, but whatever. We'll take small victories over no victories. And that's from Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. This is a sports romance, but it's a like figure skater romance. And it's a super slow burn kind of romance. And I had never read anything by Mariana Zapata before this, and all I had heard was that she is the queen of slow burn. And yeah, I mean, it was pretty slow burn, I gotta say. It was long for a contemporary romance, but I did enjoy it. Like, it was pretty good. I'll probably read from her again in the future. So yeah. All right, next up on the list we have Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. Okay, hear me out. In 2023, I read Avatar. In 2024, I listened to Throne of Glass. So in 2025, it just makes sense that I would read Crescent City. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to listen to them on audio. I grabbed them during some sale, got them for like only a couple bucks each, and I don't own the physical copies. So whenever I get around to Crescent City, I'm going to listen to it, but this is one that I'm confident we will get to this year. Like, I don't think there's a question of it. I think it'll just happen. And I'm excited for it. I don't dislike the SJM books that I've read. I don't. I don't think they are earth-shattering, life-changing books. Like, before I read Avatar, the way people talk about the series, I thought it was going to be like a new all-time favorite. Like, it was going to blow me away. And honestly, I was like, no, it was fine. It was a good time. Like, yeah, I love Race and then I listened to Throne of Glass and I thought it was better. I love Rowan, and I truly do think that Throne of Glass was a better series. But Crescent City, I had wanted to read for a while, but I had been advised to read the other series first, so I did. And considering I did one a year for the past couple years, it just makes sense that I would get to Crescent City now. What is it about? I couldn't tell you. No idea. I've gotten the impression that it is more of an urban fantasy kind of setting. I know there's a character named Bryce, and I know there's a character named. Beyond that, I couldn't tell you. Don't know anything about it. And I've heard that the first book is the best in the series and that it kind of goes downhill from there. So, not really looking forward to that, but who knows? Maybe my opinion will be different. Maybe I'll love book three or something. Who knows? All right, we're getting close to the end here now. We've just got a couple left to go through. So, next on the list, we have a book that was a little bit of a kind of it book in 2024, and that's The Crimson Moth by, oh God, is it Circarelli? Kristen Circarelli? Oh, I'm butchering that. I'm so sorry. I don't even have it in front of me to like view it. So, my bad, my bad. You also might have seen this book referred to as Heartless Hunter. Depending on what country you live in, it has a different name. What's up with that? I don't know. I got this edition in the Fairy Loot YA box for I think it was like February. So I've had this book for over a year. I don't even have the YA subscription anymore. And this book absolutely blew up. This was like 2024's answer to Divine Rivals in 2023. You know what I mean? It was like the it book from the subscription box, and I haven't read it, and people have loved it. People have gone absolutely apey crazy about this book, and I'm pretty sure it's just a duology, or maybe it's a series, but I know book two came out like last month or so, I think February. So the second book is out, and I still haven't read the first book yet, you guys. So I really want to get to that. I'm pretty sure it's a like kind of romanticy kind of situation, and I'm pretty sure we've got a witch and a witch hunter. I mean, you can't get much more enemies to lovers than a witch and a witch hunter, you know? And Give me enemies to lovers over friends to lovers every time. You know what I mean? Okay, next on the list, we have one that I am very much looking forward to and anticipating, and am also a little bit intimidated by. And that's The Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. This is a 4 book series. Every book in the series is a bit of a thickum, so that's a little intimidating on its own. But it's my understanding that this book, or well, series, is like very large scope. Like, I'm pretty sure the first book spans like 1,000 years or something. We're talking like epic scale. But I've also heard it described as silk punk. So think steampunk, but instead of steam powered machines, you have like big airships and stuff like that, like silk punk. Think, I don't know, like I'm so intrigued, and like the cover is gorgeous and the people who read it absolutely love it. I think it's got like maybe a historical fantasy kind of vibe, but not, our history because it's fantasy. I don't know. I'm a little bit intimidated by it, mostly just by like its grand scale, but I'm also really, really excited about it, and I hope that I love it because it's absolutely beautiful, like stunning. And finally, the last one we have on the list. You want to talk about ones that are a little bit intimidating, that maybe I've been avoiding and putting off for a little while? Yeah, we got the Boys of Tommen. Yeah, it's time. It's time. I've been putting them off. Basically, ever since they came out with the covers that have the ombre spines, that's when I started. And that's definitely like over a year ago. So I've had these books for long enough that I should have started the series. Do I know much about it? No. No, honey, no. I know it's like a high school sports romance, but it's very like emotional damage coded, is my understanding. Like, prepare to sob, prepare to be destroyed. And it's, I think, set in Ireland, and it's a rugby romance. And honestly, the rugby romance aspect of it is what drew me to it, because when I was like in university, I played rugby for a couple years. So, the idea of having a little like rugby fling appealed to some part of my mind, just due to like shared experience, I guess. You know what I mean? But yeah, and so we start with Binding 13, and apparently, yeah, you just have your emotions like destroyed in this series time and time again, and people love it, and I want to know what the hype is about. But these books are long, like, I mean long, for a like high school contemporary sports romance. Is it really that serious? Like, does she really need to be this long? I don't know. I don't know. I want to know. I want to find out. There's so many of my favorite like bookish content creators who consider it among their favorite series, and I want to know why. I want to find out. I want to feel all the things, and I want to love it too. So yeah, it's on the list for the 25 and 25. So yeah, these are the books and series that I'm hoping to get to this year in 2025. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these books, if you are also planning to read any of these books this year. Let me know some of the things that are on your 2025. Just drop it down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if you like this video, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more bookish content in the future. I'd love to have you. Bye bye.